hesitation. Got me going crazy. Keep it moving, I'm tuned in to True North Racing. The podcast that you need if you got the need for speed. John Morrison interviewing guests in the industry. Hey, short track, stock car racing. Gotta get it hype. Saturday night under the lights. Hear the engine rooming by. Smell the gas and feel the vibe. Going into overdrive. Drop the flag, then the car zooming by. Hey, True North Racing. Let's go.
What's up, everyone, and welcome back to a new week of the True North Racing Podcast, brought to you by JoMo Media Promotions. I'm your host, Jon Morrison. Tonight, I am going to be riding solo, because when we record, it's always Sunday night. I've always talked about this, how we like to record on Sunday nights. And this week, this week at Flamboro, it is Frostoberfest Day 2. And I was supposed to go. I'm going to get to that under our pace lap here in just a second. So Megan Mitchell's over there enjoying that right now. This week on the show, we're going to be bringing in rookie, young drivers, Canadian modified driver, Jae Pepin. He's going to be joining us this week. We're going to be talking to him about how he got started in racing. And we got a lot of questions to go on tonight. So we're not going to sit back and hang out much tonight. So let's dive into the pace lap. All right. So this past weekend, racing is done for me. I am not going to hit another track here in 2022, unfortunately. I was hoping to make it out today. I picked up a new vehicle and there's just some issues, and I'm gonna be getting them fixed. So I was unable to make it out to Flamboro Speedway today to go watch some racing. And I was supposed to go hang out with Justin Collison, and he was supposed to be our guest this week on a special feature. And what I'm meaning by that is that we were supposed to record a whole day's episode, essentially, grabbing race footage from Justin's point of view, from Brad Collison's point of view. And then after the races were done, we were going to sit down, chat with them for a little bit about their races, about Brad's career, and what their plans for next year. Unfortunately, that was just not in the cards for me to go. And that's okay. There's always next year. As things look up for next year, it's going to be, I say this, some things are going to look a little different next year. Saturday, Jacqueline, myself, we met up with our co-host Megan and her boyfriend Garrison, went out for dinner and enjoyed some mini golf. And I love hanging out with them. They're so much fun people. So yeah, Megan, we do hang outside of the podcast sometimes. I love hanging out with them. The conversation just never stops with them. I love it, especially once it gets started. It definitely doesn't slow down. That's for damn sure. And I love it. I love hanging out with them. Hopefully we can get to do some more of those here soon. I would love to do a JoMo Media rundown right now. But I've been busy today. I've been cleaning my kids' room all day. So like it's a mess behind me right now, which is fine. But oh boy. Yeah, it was about an hour ago. This room was just a complete disaster. I wasn't even sure if I was going to be here on time to start recording, to be able to get this in on time. CVM update Wednesday. So when this airs, so tomorrow, October 5th, anyone who wants to be a part of the Canadian Modifieds, anyone who is a member of the CVMs, we will be having our annual general meeting down at Flamboro Speedway at 7 p.m. 7 o'clock. Make sure you guys are there in the Turn 1 VIP tower. Anyone who's interested, head on down and you're going to get some information. We're going to have our annual general meeting. We're going to have elections for next year. And we're going to talk about the 2022 season plus banquet information. This is going to be a quick one. So anyways, that's it for our pace lap. Why don't we just jump over to checkers or wreckers? So this is our first new edition of the checkers or wreckers. If you guys had heard before, we are going to be bringing it back This time with a twist. That's right. You fans are going to be the ones involved here. I kind of put out something earlier today to give it a test run, because I was unsure if I was even going to be airing an episode, if Megan was going to be back in time. So I decided to go ahead with this tonight. So I put out there, if you got any questions for me, shoot them in. I'll answer them the best I can. If not, I already got a question from Scott Pro, and he is he's gonna make me work, because you guys will hear the question a little bit, but I'm not gonna put any comments on it, just because I want to understand what his question is before I answer it blindly. So like I said, so this one's gonna be a little bit of a twist. So checkers, we like it. Wreckers, we don't like it. And again, the topics that we're going to be discussing on this going forward are all going to be from you guys. So make sure every Sunday, submit them in. So yeah, submit them in, and Megan and myself will talk about them on the show. So let's dive into this one. So we got some questions lined up for me here, and I never thought some of these questions would come in. So William_Trillium on Instagram goes, "What is your favorite series to watch?" Oh boy, that's a loaded question, because I'm a fan of racing in general. You don't really catch me just. I'll say I like NASCAR one week because they put on a hell of a race. One week I'll say they put on APC. Now, APC has to be on a short bull ring for me to really get involved in. Really, really enjoy. Something like a Peterborough, Sauble, Flamboro. It's got to be tight. You can't get away from the person. Lately, I've been really enjoying the dirt stuff for the past 4 years ish. I want to say I've been enjoying a lot more of the dirt stuff. It's been so much fun. I love going. I know Jacqueline was going because we set certain areas, you can get hit with dirt, and that's what she loves. I'm just a fan of racing. I don't really have a favorite series to watch, as long as it puts on solid racing. It could be the pure stocks, could be the mini stocks, could be the super stocks, could be the street stocks over on the dirt side, could be crate sprints one week, could be the 360s, could be APC, could be the Pinty series. I'm just a fan of racing, so I don't really have a favorite one to watch. Our next question comes from Dante Quispe, who is one of our guests on the show. With 4 races to go, how do you make of Dante's 2022 performance? And I'm assuming that says tying the championship. Dante, man, you've had a hell of a year. I love seeing your race updates every weekend when you have gone racing. It truly gets me into the karting side of it, and I love watching you. I love seeing the race reports and seeing you up on that podium. You're doing a great job, man. Keep it up. Next question comes to us from a good friend of ours named Rob Twitchett. If I could race any series, any car, series, budget, worldwide, what would it be? Oh, any series, any budget. Oh, that's a loaded question. I don't. Everyone, all the time, it's like, yeah, I would love to race Cup, but I don't want to. I think if I was to race any car series budget, it would probably be super late models or pro late models, and just touring, and any big race, or even a local race, depending on where we're traveling to. That's probably what I would do, is probably run a pro late or a super late model, and just run anywhere, Canada, US, any big events. You just see me traveling. That's it. Same question, just local. And this also came in from Rob. Man, it's almost seemed as a given, because I've talked about it before. I would have to say the Canadian Vintage Modifieds. For myself, that's one of the earliest divisions. Yeah, it's one of the earliest divisions that I can remember watching, besides the late models. Because when I first started getting with David Elliott. I would have to see the Canadian Modifieds or the Pro Challenge, the Ontario Pro Challenge. I love the series. I love just both cars, both series. They're just amazing to me. I love the aspect of them. I love the way they race. Or a Legends car, Legends, Ontario Pro Challenge, or a CVM are the three series I would love to get into. Because just to me, those three divisions are just absolutely amazing. Just love the cars in general, what it takes. But yeah, that's definitely what those are the ones I would drive. Our last question comes into us from Scott Pro, and this is the one I was telling about earlier that I am not going to answer tonight. I'm going to do my research this week and probably answer it on next week's show. So this one, he goes, state of the crate. Is it time to start allowing LS or import-based engines into stock car racing? Australia and New Zealand have gone Nissan and Toyota-based V8s for their super stock racing divisions with success, and they're also still carbureted. Scott, I would love to answer that question. I told you I was gonna, if I had time tonight, I would answer it. That is a question I'm going to be waiting for next week, and that is strictly because I do have no clue about it. I'm going to look into it more before I make a comment on that. But those are our questions this week for essentially our first edition of Checkers and Wreckers. If you guys got a racing topic you want to talk about you want us to talk about here on the show, reach out to us on Sundays. I will put a post out before we put our guest post out to let you guys know who our guest will be. There'll be a post early in the day saying, send us your racing topics for us to discuss on the show. Thank you to William, Dante, Rob, Scott for all submitting questions. And yeah, like I said, check back next week. I think I got really nothing else to talk about tonight because unfortunately, like I said, Megan's not here. She's over enjoying Frostoberfest. So let's bring in our guest this week, Jae Pepin. All right, guys, this week on the True North Racing Podcast, we are bringing in the driver, the number 43 from the Young Drivers Canadian Modified, Jae Pepin. Jae, how are you, man?
Good, John. Thanks for having me, and I appreciate it.
No problem. I know this was last minute. I'm really sorry. The way the deal was supposed to work today was completely different. But you've been requested by a number of guys throughout the season to come on. And most of them actually asking questions tonight. There's been a couple who missed, but that's fine. Yeah, man. 2022 year, you were a rookie for the Young Drivers Canadian Modified. First of all, how did your season turn out?
Well, thanks for having me. First of all, I really appreciate it. And last minute or not, it's an honor to be here with your podcast. I listen all the time, so I really appreciate you having me. The season's been great. Like it was great. Like it was obviously a huge learning curve, but I think it was a successful season. I learned a lot. Had a lot of ups and downs, and overall, I thought it was a great year.
That's awesome, man. Because like I met you the last race of 2021, and that was just after you bought what was the 39 car. Now it's 43 car. You bought it. I was able to come up there and introduce myself to you. And from right off the bat, I can tell like you were excited to be a part of this club. And 2022 proved that you learned a lot really quickly, and it was a pleasure to watch you each week and see how you progress to racing these things.
Yeah, it was something that I really didn't think would come so quickly with purchasing the vehicle. I mean, I saw one of the fan questions, so I'm probably going to answer this question a little bit. So our fellow racer and a good friend of mine, Steve Murdoch, asked a question like, how did I get into the hobby cars? So slash CVMs is I was actually helping those guys out. So I was with the 42 and the 7. I quit Murdoch and helping those guys out last year. And, being in the pits with them and spotting for them. And then Yeah, so I got a first look at the club and how it went. And I mean, everybody, I don't know if everybody knows, but I came from the karting world. So I was running go-karts and things like that. So being introduced to the hobby scene was a pretty cool thing. And being involved with that. So obviously it's so easy to fall in love with these things, right? I mean, for obvious reasons. So, and the atmosphere at Flamboro Speedway. So when I got the chance, then I just jumped all over it. And the opportunity came up and I just didn't let it go. Bought the car.
You know what? That makes a lot of sense because first of all, these cars are absolutely amazing. Second of all, I love Steve and Quentin. They are absolutely incredible people. Um, and like I said, it was awesome seeing you get back. You're starting to get back behind the wheel of one of these things last year. And you just alluded to there for a minute. You started off in go-karting. How long have you been go-karting? When did it start? Let's jump all the way back to the beginning here. When did you first get involved in racing and how old were you?
So I don't know, I guess I was maybe, gosh, 13, 14. And at that point I was already, maybe a lot of people don't know this, but I was already involved, like heavily involved with hockey and lacrosse, box lacrosse. So I was an athlete in both those sports, like pretty heavily. And but I always had a love for auto racing and karts, and my parents were just, the background wasn't racing, so they really frowned upon the racing aspect. So and I excelled at those sports, and they just did not want me involved in it. But I got into a couple of years, maybe, I don't know, 2-3 years of karting. It was great. I did it on the side whenever I could, and then it got shut down. So like my other sports kind of elevated, and I ended up having a pretty good career in both of those. So I ended up playing a little bit of professional lacrosse, and it was good. It was great, but I always had my love for racing. Obviously followed NASCAR and dirt racing. I lived in the Niagara area, so I went to Maryville a lot, watched a lot of the dirt track racing there. So obviously heckling my mom and dad for years, like that I wanted it, and it never really happened. But as I aged and I had my own kids and things developed, I always had a love for it. And then my daughter one day she was doing another sport one day, and she had a medical issue, and her knees were pretty banged up. So I said, hey, let's get into some racing. So it kind of was like my little get back into it. And my daughter got into it, and she ended up loving it. So I was with her doing karting at Flamboro Speedway, Waterloo Regional Car Club. They're our local our car club. So she ended up doing that, and then I ended up getting back into the seat, so to speak. So she was like, hey, I heard you race, and let's get you back in the seat. So I ended up doing that for a few years. And so I basically had a short-lived career in racing physically, but I always had a love for it. But and like I said earlier, then I kind of gravitated myself to the hobby club, um and that's where I am now. Like I ended up buying the car, so I still race a few races here and there with karts. Uh, love doing it. It's been fun. I raced one race this year with the club. Actually, my CDM sponsor, Wild One Day Painting, actually sponsored the race event, and it was a fun day. I actually won the race, so it's pretty good day. So that's kind of my short-lived career in racing, but always had a love for it.
Okay, so we're gonna jump back here because that's a lot to unpack. Because so when you said you played a little bit professional of hockey and lacrosse, where did you play?
Well, not so much hockey. So lacrosse a little bit. I played junior hockey and junior lacrosse. Won national championships in both those sports. I had
Wow.
a debilitating back injury. Had a severe injury. It's a degenerative injury that I've had my whole life. I had surgery on it maybe about 8 years ago to finally correct it. Had my lower back fused. Um, so yeah, my hockey career got cut a little bit short just due to that. Lacrosse, I took a brief break, and then played some pro lacrosse in the major league series here in Ontario. Just the back couldn't handle it. all that run concrete. So you're probably thinking, well, wow, karting doesn't help the body much either. No, it doesn't.
You're not wrong. I was thinking that. I was like, man, like this racing stuff, if you hit hard enough into one of these walls, it's not a good feeling either.
No, it's not a good feeling, and I've done all that too. So we can get into that in a bit, but it's tougher. I mean, when you're young, right, you're like a piece of rubber, so it doesn't
Yeah.
really hurt for as long. But as you age a little bit, things hurt a little bit longer. But yeah, I don't know. As I aged, I got my back fixed, and I was always in decent shape, and being an athlete. So the it's funny because people say, why don't you do a little bit more karting than the cars? It's like the cars are a little more for suspension, and I mean the karts are pretty stiff. So like you're basically the suspension in those things. So like going back to my race this summer, I hurt for a couple days after. Like it bounce you around. So it's they're not easy to do. So if anybody races the hobbies or any other cars and they haven't raced karts, like they do a number on you. So it's a lot for sure.
Absolutely. Like you said, like it's like you said, you do one thing, it hurts the back. You do another thing, it's still gonna hurt your back. Um, but unfortunately, at least you were able to get it corrected. You're able to um continue on and do some of the stuff you got to do. And so you said that the track you were go-karting at first, it shut down. What track was that?
It was basically up in Hamilton at the
Okay.
Indy track there up on the mountain there. So yeah, when I was younger, I was racing up there.
Okay. And
Yeah,
what year was that? Just out of curiosity, so we can timeline your racing career here.
smokes, like oh 88, 89 ish, maybe
Okay.
a few years back here. So I was maybe 12 to 14, maybe something like that. Yeah. Like I said, I wasn't allowed to really do it full time. Like it was a headache. I kind of had to lean off for friends and stuff and like kind of tail them and the parents really didn't want me to do that, right? So it was a tough gig for sure.
Absolutely. Um, okay, so now let's now go through here because now I want to get back up to kind of current times. So how long were you helping the Murdochs before you decided these are the cars I want to get into?
Honestly, like a year, like
Oh yeah.
literally a year. So we got to the track for karting in the season, and I know Quentin was still running the odd kart race. And Steve, as you know, Steve and Sandy basically have a home address at the track, right? So
Yeah.
they're always hanging out and stuff. So I already knew them from the karting world. And then one day they just said to me, "Hey, like, why don't you like hang out tonight?" I'm like, "For what?" And then they basically just said, "Hey, the hobbies, like we're running those." I'm like, "Yeah, oh yeah, okay." So I ended just said, "Yeah, I'll help out." I just stayed, and literally that was it. Once I was there that one night, like that was it. But the only time that I actually had an interaction with a hobby car, I literally saw it. Well, now I know it was TJ Marshall at the track, and all of a sudden I see this hot rod going around the track, and this thing was insane. And I was right at I think between turn 2 and 3 down the straightaway, watching this thing go by. I'm like, this is insane. So that was kind of like my first forte with these hobbies, and then with being so up close with the Murdochs, it was nuts. It was like 1 year, not even.
Oh wow. And you
Yep.
haven't regretted it since, have you?
No. So no, like not at all. Like this has been the greatest, one of the greatest things that changed my life. Um, like I said, I was racing karts that year, and I was helping the Murdochs, and then unfortunately, so my mom passed away in July of like last year, so 2021.
Mm-hmm.
As the year went on, and then mom passed. Is one thing that she told me before she passed. She's like, just live your life, like just have fun, do what you want to do. And so when that happened, it really hit me right after a month after she passed. I'm like, you know what am I waiting for? I want to do this. Let's just do this.
Yeah.
And then when I heard the car came up for sale, she came right to my mind. So that was a big reason I bought the car. So I do owe it to my mom. Like she's the reason why I literally pulled the trigger and bought the car, and I have no regrets. zero regrets. I raced in her honor. I got her sticker on my car, on my trailer, and she's a huge reason as to why I do that.
Yeah. And I get where you're coming from. I lost my mom over 10 years ago, and it's tough. And they always tell you, live your life. That was the same thing my mom told me like a day before she passed. Same thing. Just live your life. I'm like, okay. And so, it's awesome that, you're racing in her honor, because that I'm sure she's looking down on you and just cheering you on each time you hit the track. But I do want to say my condolences to you in regards to your mom.
Thank you.
Oh man, didn't want to didn't want to hit the soft spot there tonight.
No, but
it works. It's perfect.
It's a huge. It's the reason that I'm in those cars. Yeah, people. You're not the first one to ask me, well, why in the world would you buy one of these? It's my mom. That's the reason. Obviously, the Murdochs got me towards the club, and I love them for it. But my mom made me pull the trigger.
The one thing I got to get started on that here, I think in the next week or so. I got to talk to some people. Maybe on Wednesday I'll hang back and talk to some of the committee members, because for anyone who's listening to this for the first time, I'm also the media guy for the Young Drivers Canadian Modified. So like, it's kind of funny for me asking some of these questions to you, because I know the answer because of watching you all 14 events this year.
Sure.
But at the same time, it gives me a chance to find better insight on your season, and because I feel like we had one of the craziest seasons in recent memory, as far as I can think of. We had 14 events. We had, I think I saw on AJ's post, like 27 features. 6 cars ran the entire season, and that was including yourself.
Yeah.
Man, we had a crazy year, and I will always joke because, and again, this is going back to Steve, because I know Steve's probably going to listen to this. I always joked with Steve Murdoch a lot that he was a mid-pack car, just busting his balls just because I could. And he goes out there and wins that feature early on in the season. I literally walked away. I was cheering for him. I was like, oh my God, he's gonna win. Then he wins. And I walk away, I'm like, damn it, I can't say a damn thing to him anymore about him being a mid-pack car, because he ran a good chunk of that race up front. But obviously, going from helping the Murdochs to chasing them, how much fun has that been throughout the season for you?
It's been incredible. Honestly, it's funny you say that, because Steve and I, and even Sandy and Quentin and I talk about that a lot. So it's been cool. And back to that feature that he won, like he was over the moon, and he came out of the car and we parked beside each other. And the first thing he said was, he mentioned your name, saying he's got nothing on it now, right? So it was pretty cool to hear. I had a little insight into that. So that's fun. But no, it's like, I mean, Quentin's in the upper echelon of this club. Let's face it, right? This guy's running at the front all the time. Steve has been running up there too, not as often as Q, right? But so I've had some privileges to run with Steve here and there. So touching on what you asked, that's been great. I've had a great time running with him. The track photographer grabs a few pics of me and him together on the track, so we share that. It's pretty cool. So and to them too, they love it as much as I do, sending me pictures and things, and it's been great for them. They're just great people, right? So they just they love the sport, and they've loved that I've actually been able to get into a car and do it with them.
For sure. Throughout this season so far, what has been some of the biggest lessons you've learned coming from karting up to these full-size cars?
The biggest lessons I've learned, I mean, These things are super powerful, right? Like, I mean, obviously the carts don't have as much power. With the carts, a lot of it's maintaining your speed. So the less you brake, the less you turn, the faster you go, because you're limited with power on those. But these cars have a ton of power. They're going to exceed. They're going to exceed what the track allows. So you really have to focus on how to drive the car, and they're super sensitive. So any minor changes that you make a huge change into how the car handles. Carts are going right, left, right, whatever, right? Where these things, you're going left. It's just left. And some people, even friends of mine, make fun of me. Oh, you're just turning left. You're just going left. How easy is that? Not. It's tough. It's really tough. So it's a big transition. So I think respecting the cars, knowing that you're 10 feet away from a concrete wall, that humbles you real quick, because if you want to get cocky and make mistakes or get arrogant, you're going to pay. So in karts, you don't have that luxury. You're just going to go into some tires. You're going to go into some grass. You're not really going to wreck your cart. So even though there's a lot less protection, I would rather take that than going into the wall, which I've already done this year practice. So it's not fun. So yeah, that's the biggest thing I learned. Respect the vehicles. They got a boatload of power.
Oh, for sure. Because you guys are running a 602 crate on 6-inch tires, 8-inch tires. Oh, I can't remember.
I think 8. Yeah, I think 8.
I'm about to pull up my damn rule book that I'm stepping on right now to find out the damn tire size.
And they're threaded, right? So we're not running slicks either. So there's a lot of slip and sliding. So it's pretty crazy, right? The carts are obviously slick, so a lot different. Oh
yeah, it's one of the things that's always drew me to the club was the history aspect of it, because I may be only 30. I may have only been around the sport for about 15 years. But the one thing I always admit is I love the history of certain cars, certain divisions. And to me, the CVMs are like that area that I like to contain. Because to me, one, they're absolutely gorgeous cars. You're not going to find two of them alike on the racetrack. I don't think we even had two that were the same all season. And even though some of them are running almost, the same motors, same rear end, same, underneath stuff, the cars are very much completely different, and they'll drive completely different. And so, like, for me, this division's always held a special place in my heart ever since I first started getting into racing, because these things they remind you of a time gone past, but we're also not a show up and show kind of class. When we go out there, we're racing. And we got, did you get involved in any hard wrecks this year? Like, I'm not saying hard wrecks, but just any just impacts.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember the one now. I remember one of them.
Yeah, one was a pretty decent one, and then one was too minor, but it clipped me out of the race. But yeah, I can't remember which race it was, but we were literally on the start. We were like, literally the pace truck went off the track, and we were getting ready to rock and roll. And I can't remember. I think I was on the outside, and we started going, and then actually 42, the Steve Murdoch ended up off of turn 4 into the wall, immediately came down the track. The 19 clipped them, and I was full throttle. Another car went out from us, so then all of a sudden the 19 is right in my view, and I hit the brakes and completely drilled him in the rear end. And that was a big one. Yeah, so I was busy working on the car. Yeah, that was a good one.
I wasn't there for that night. That's why I don't remember that one so much.
Yeah, that was the first feature that night. And then one where the second one was when the 03 Jake Gilbert's engine expired, and then the 17 got caught in it, and then I hit the oil. Literally just clipped my front tire on the wall. Like, I literally just slowly clipped it, but it broke the lower radius arm mount. So yeah, I was out for that. But that was it, pretty much.
You kept your nose clean. I got him at that. And one of the and this isn't. I'm wearing my Joe Media hat. Actually, no, I can't even wear that right now. Damn it! This is a fan perspective. I'm not wearing a Joe Media hat. I'm not wearing a CVM hat.
All right.
I do have to say that you have one of the nicest cars on the track all year. I love that black and green look. The 43, it looked phenomenal out there. I remember when you sent me pictures before the season started, and you're like, "Shh, don't share these." I'm like, "Oh, that's a one badass looking car," even though it's just like a flat black with just the What
Right
we
on it.
uh
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I was gonna, and I forgot for a hot second that you're also a Joe Media driver this year. So I couldn't say I have my Joe Media hat on because you are one of our one of our 6 CVM drivers we had this year.
Yeah.
So don't want to be playing favoritisms among the division. But you know, you guys had a great year in terms of how, in my opinion, for a learning year for your first year in one of these things, I feel like you had a great year. Near the end when you starting up where they told like, hey, you're starting pole. It was great to see you starting out front. I was so excited when I saw that. That first time you started out front, how was that feeling for you?
It was exciting. It was I mean, I know I saw a couple of I saw a couple of the questions, so you're kind of leading in like co-drivers and fellow drivers are asking tonight, but I might be repeating myself later, but that was a big thing, and like I think I should have did that a little earlier in the season. But I just wanted to take my time. This is not a sprint. Like I'm hoping my CVM career is not a sprint. It's more of a marathon, and like taking your time, learning the ropes, learning the drivers, respecting the veterans is a big deal. So for me, I think I took extra time, maybe scratching throughout the year, and then finally realizing, you know what, I think I'm ready for this. I'm going to do this, and then having the respect of the veterans, knowing that they know what I'm going to do at the front. So if things kind of happen, they'll know how to handle things, right? So, and I think it worked out for the best in that manner, right? So, no, it was exciting. Like, it was really great to actually race for spots and like run with, you know, have the top runners around me for a change, right? So, you know, the 8, the 15, the 7, all those guys, right? So, the 5, like Mike Pod. So it was really fun, and then to have the conversations with them after off track and get the feedback from them was it's invaluable. So like you said, a great learning season with different situations, right?
Absolutely. Um, Speaking of a question that wasn't really a question, but we're gonna be someone wanted me to ask you this, but not in our fan question period, but wanted me to bring it up now.
Okay.
This was a private message between me and this guy here. So on Rob Twitchett's episode.
Oh, here we go. And I
He
listened to that one too. Yeah.
Sorry?
I listened to that episode too.
Perfect. So in that episode, he talked about how he was using you as his goalpost last benchmark. First of all, what are your thoughts on Rob using you as his goalpost?
Okay, man, if I can help anybody in any manner, I'm the guy. I'm a team player.
I mean, Rob's always a great guy to deal with.
Yeah.
What are some of your benchmarks? What were some of your benchmarks throughout the 2022 season, and did you hit them?
So I'm going to touch on Rob Twitchett real quick here, and I'll go to that. The one thing that he said in your podcast that really hit home, and that was around the time that I did take my spot, and he was the one on your podcast that said, listen, like, this guy needs to take a spot. He's doing well. And so, like, I actually had an off-track conversation with him, and it was really great, the feedback that I got from him, and his take on me taking my spot, like racing up there with the guys, right? Because I was holding my own, and I could do what I can do up there. So it was great to hear that from him. So to Rob, I appreciate what he said to me, and I took his advice, and it worked out well. But a benchmark, learn as much as I could. Try to suck all the information I could from all the veterans. Do it in a respectful way. Mind myself on the track. I'm invited into a prestigious club, like you said, a long-lasting club. It's a privilege to drive these cars. Try to run as many laps as I could, regardless of the finish. But do it the right way. I think I did that. I had a ton of support. I can get into that in a bit, but yeah, like just minding myself and making sure that I did it the right way. That was so huge for me. Being in sports, like we alluded on earlier, it's everybody has their place. When you get into something new, you have to work your way into that I don't know, that group. So you got to earn that. It's not handed to you. So I'm still not there yet, but just slowly trying to make my way through it. I think that was a big thing for me for this year was learn, race hard, but not getting anybody's way and doing it the right way.
You know what? That's always a good lesson to take away, is make sure you do it your way in the right way. I was like I said, I've said all year, every time I watch you go out onto that track, I'm impressed with you more and more each week you get out there. And I think maybe in the first week you took your starting spot, or maybe a couple weeks after, you went out there, you started on the front row, and you even had a lead for like at least 5-6 car lengths at one point for like, and held it for like 2-3 laps. And I'm like, yes, good. And I can't be sitting over there being biased, but at the same time, like I'm so proud of all the drivers in the Canadian modifieds, because first of all, you guys are y'all are crazy, y'all are nuts for even driving these things.
We are.
But I respect the hell out of y'all for driving these things, and you got a lot of you guys especially respect the history of the division and of these cars. But like I'll tell you this, if I was standing there trying to record something or something like that, I had to remember like, oh yeah, inside voice, because no one else is supposed to know. But like I said, each time I saw you go out there, I was impressed with you, how you ran, how everyone else ran around you. Besides, who has been one of the veterans in the class though that I've come up to you and really taking you under their wings? They could have been driving now or past, but who's really come from the club and taking you under their wing and taught you some things?
Honestly, like I could easily just tell you one or two guys, but honestly, there's been a ton, like a few, like a veteran. I'm gonna call this guy a veteran. He's 30 years younger than me. Like Quinn Murray, like this kid knows what he's doing. TJ, like this guy gives me his time all the time. Like all the guys, Mike Pod, like this guy's been racing forever. Everybody, Joe Arce, everyone, Ricky Williger, every driver has given their time to have a few words with me, to talk to me about things. I literally mean every driver. So if I miss you guys, I'm sorry. Every driver in our series I've talked to, Scott Tonelli, like, and he's a rookie too, but man, like this guy knows a lot about racing. Like everybody, John, honestly, every driver. And that's a huge part of this club, is that they're always willing to help.
Absolutely. I think we're going to jump into our fan question period.
Sure.
As you saw earlier today, I tagged you in I think every single post I made to get the word out you were coming on the show tonight, because it was so last minute. I wanted to make sure we got at least one or two. Usually we get fan questions, but this week we have I can't even count how many we got. Like I have them up on my screen here, and
Sure.
from where they start, I'm still not finished.
All right, let her rip.
So the first one comes from Scott Tonelli. What was one thing about piloting a CVM that surprised you the most this year?
Yeah, my buddy Scott. So I think I touched on it earlier. So again, forgive me if I'm repeating myself. The biggest thing, the biggest surprise was how much power these things have, and man, like it's a 3rd mile track, and you're like you're trucking it down the straightaway, and then you got to go left. So they're just a lot of power, right? And then the smallest changes can affect the turn. So to me, when I made changes in that learning curve, to make changes, it was pretty crazy, because in karts there's changes, but you don't feel them as much as the cars. So to me, the biggest thing was how powerful they were, and the changes that you make with them can drastically change how you drive.
Our next question again comes to us from Scott Tinelli. He goes, if you could go back to the first race with what you know now, is there anything you would do differently?
Yeah. I'm probably going to say that I shouldn't have scratched my position 2/3 of the year. I think I was just too hard on myself. Being a former athlete, I always expected a lot of myself, and I think I translated that to the cars, and I shouldn't have, because they're their own, they're different. I think I should have just believed in myself a little bit more, and maybe took my spot a little sooner in the year to gain even more experience. No regrets, but I think if that was one thing that I know now that I would have done different, with my spot earlier in the year. Yeah,
For sure. Next one comes to us from Tim Martin. Did you have fun?
Tim Martin. They parked beside us all year too, eh? So Twitchett. I did have fun. I mean, I had a lot of fun. This has completely changed my life, because being a CVM driver is not just grabbing the car and putting it on the trailer and going the race for a few hours and throwing it back in the garage. It is literally a year-long project, and I enjoyed every minute of it. There's some nights when things don't go your way, and you might be swearing or upset, but it's part of the program. And but I had a ton of fun, for sure.
All right. I'm going to skip a bunch of these for right now because they're all from the same guy.
Sure.
Yeah. We got Ricky Williger and Ian Hedwin on Instagram. Also go, we already touched on this, but we're going to retouch on it again.
Sure.
What got you into racing?
I was always a NASCAR fan, even as a little kid, watching Richard Petty and all these guys, and Donnie Allison race when I was a kid. I was just a racer. I think I was just born in the wrong part of the continent. If I was born, so it would have got into it sooner. But loved racing. Obviously, like I mentioned earlier, I was into hockey and lacrosse, and had a good career in those. And then just found a time and place to get into it with my daughter. Yeah, she raced karts, so yeah, got back into it that way.
Steve Murdoch, what drew you to the hobby club?
Well, yeah,
like I said, we're going to repeat ourselves here, but that's fine. We want to make sure these questions also get answered.
Yeah, for sure. I know. I mean, great question by Steve. I think that's a loaded question, but that guy knows that I ended up helping their team, and and crewing and spotting for them, and obviously got me completely and utterly in love with the club, and that's how I got into the hobbies.
All right, we got a laundry list of questions here coming from our buddy Rob Twitchett.
Dude.
First one, what was the best advice you received this season?
Well, that's from him. He told me, take my right on your podcast, and he mentioned, and I remember listening to that, and he's right, and that was the best advice I got all year, man. Like, take your spot. You've earned it. You've done it the right way, and minding my business and learning ever so slowly, and hearing it from my fellow racers was a good thing. So that was probably the best advice I got all year.
All right. Next one. What kept you going on the bad nights when you wanted to quit?
What keeps you going? Because there's always that hope that one day you're going to, hopefully one day, not saying I will ever, but you want to be Quentin Murdoch, Ricky Williger, TJ Marshall, the guys that win, Steve Murdoch, Jake Gilbert, Mike Pod, guys that win races. You want to be that guy. So I've won a lot in the past in sports, and it's just a drive as an athlete that you want to fulfill. So that's what keeps you going.
All right. Well, what advice would you give a new person starting out in the CVMs?
Don't be hard on yourself. And I'm a hypocrite for saying that. Hardest guy on myself. So any of my friends and family is going to listen to this, are going to laugh right now. I'm hard on myself, and I expect a lot out of myself, and I think it hinders you. And you touched on it earlier, Jon, that you said, and I appreciate your words, that you said that you enjoyed watching my progress, and it is a progress. They're not easy to drive. I got into a few races this year with Pro Challenge. Those are tough. They're tough. They're tough. They're not. They're just different than a CVM. The CVM's tough. These things are volatile. If you don't drive them the right way, they'll get out from under you. They'll get upset. So yeah, just be patient and enjoy it. Just take your time.
Why number 43?
Why 43? Richard Petty. That's it. Richard Petty.
Hey, that's a simple answer. I figured as much, because especially with the font style you had. But
that's right. He's the greatest. He's the king. So my first forte in watching NASCAR, watching him race as a kid. I was born in 75, so you're talking early 80s, mid 80s, and watching him go, that's it. It's a 43.
All right. What was your best memory from 2022?
My best memory. I think one race I finished fourth. That was a great night. Watching my buddy Quentin scramble to get a rear end in his car, thinking he wouldn't race. He gets on the track and not even thinking he's going to run 2 laps. The guy finishes third. He took away my third place, but kudos to him. That was a great night. I was pretty proud of myself for that was my highest finish of the year. So yeah, it was a great night. That's probably my highlight of the year.
Rob Twitchett also asked this one as well. I didn't realize it could have gone together there. Why did you pick the CVMs?
Well, I'd say, like I said earlier, it's just being connected with Cox, right? With that closeness. I wanted something that was affordable as well. Local. They race locally, right? So that was a huge thing. So I live in Niagara Falls, so I'm an hour to the track regardless. So being in a traveling series, some other series travel, right? Like even Pro Challenge, they travel a little wee bit, mini stocks and all that. So, and man, these CVMs sound great. Like
Yeah,
602 crates. So it was just a mixture of, the V8s. I'm a hot rodder. I love muscle cars, and being close by and not having to travel. So that was a big reason to get into the club.
What one of the 44 drivers is your favorite?
Oh man,
It's okay if you don't want to say Rob Twitchett, because I feel like I couldn't say his name either.
No. On the car. What was it? Was on the car when he was driving? Not Connor.
Not Connor Ross.
So yeah, it's Rob Twitchett. Like, I mean, I love Adam and Connor. These guys are great. I didn't see them as much this year, right?
Yeah.
I went to a few Pinty's races and helped out with the team there, but I saw Adam. But no, Rob was there most of the time. So obviously got to chat with Rob, and we pitted right next to each other. So yeah, Rob, he's a good guy. So
absolutely. If you could race any class of race car at any track, what would it be?
Any level, anything?
Any level, anything.
I'm gonna the truck series. The truck series. I love the trucks. Does that count? Can I say that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I watched the Talladega race today. That was a great race. Or the other day, yesterday. That was a great race. Just love the trucks. I don't know what it is with them. They're intense. They're aggressive. Good. Just a good series. And a local guy lives in Niagara Lake here. Jeff Friesen races in there. So
yep.
Yeah, good series.
What track would it be at though? Would it be at Dega? Would it be?
I'm gonna do Daytona. Too much NASCAR, like NASCAR NASCAR PlayStation. I'm always on that track. I think on digitally anyway. So yeah, I think Daytona.
All right, this is the last fan question. If you could be on a better podcast than that JoMo hack, what one would it be?
Dirty Mo, right?
Absolutely.
Right, Junior, Dirty
Yep.
Mo. But I'd rather be on JoMo. So, no, man, you run a great podcast, dude. So it's been a pleasure being here with you. But yeah, I appreciate everything.
Rob was trying to get back at me, but I was like, screw it, I'm putting it anyways.
This is all him. All these questions.
He sends me a laundry list. I'm like, do you have any others?
And
I teed myself up and I was expecting it.
man, he's a beauty. He's
Oh,
a
yeah.
beauty.
Now,
I heard through the grapevine. I think he's racing with us again next year. So I hope that's the case. It's great to race with him. I could be wrong on this, but I thought I heard that he's going to be running a few races with it. I could be wrong.
Mr. Rob Twitchett, you have some explaining to do then, buddy. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Maybe. Not sure yet.
I got to figure out next year. I think we're going to have a really good season with the CVMs. I feel like this year was just one of them. Like, I felt like with the 4 in a row, 1 week off, then 5 in a row, it really deterred a lot of guys from coming out. I would love to see maybe like 2 on, 1 off, 2 like kind of deal. Hopefully for next year. That's my ideal schedule is 2 on, 1 off, 2 on, 1 off, to give guys a chance to travel if they want to, and time to fix their cars. Now, how do you tell me what you think about it? Because I don't drive, but like even just showing up to the races for 4 in a row, then a 5 in a row, really kicked my ass this year.
Yeah, it's tough for sure because we obviously, if there's some major damage to some cars, sometimes it takes more than a week, obviously. So we saw that the car count went down a little bit. With that, I mean, I'm a new guy, so I mean, I'm just telling you that it was tough to keep it together for 5 weeks. 5 is tough. Spread it maybe 3 at most for me, if you're asking me personally, 3 at most. But I mean, let's face it, like it's tough. Like I'm sure the track, a lot of other series. So I have no comment on that. It's tough. I'm sure the scheduling is not easy, but if we had to pick personally, yeah, like 5 is tough. Maybe 3. Yeah, but I mean, I'm a glutton for punishment. I drove a pro challenge for a few races too in between weekends, so I was asking for it, right? So
absolutely.
But yeah, for sure.
Now before we even go any further, I want to thank everyone for submitting their fan questions. Every Sunday, make sure you guys tune into our Facebook, Instagram pages, and to see who our guests will be this week, and submit your questions when it's queued up. And we want to thank Jay for taking the time and answering those questions tonight.
Right on. Sounds good. Can I do you think a few people here tonight or what?
Absolutely, man. I wasn't even done yet. I was just saying I was just wrapping up our segment for that. That's all.
All right. No. Like, I mean, if I take a minute to do it now, I want to
absolutely.
I want to thank obviously my mom for being who she was and the reason why I got into these, and I appreciate you giving me the platform to do this on. I'm very privileged. I thank you. My dad, who's still with us, he was out there every week supporting me and the team, and my girlfriend Julia helping out. She was always there doing anything we needed to do. My pit crew guy, Ryan Torella, that guy learned a lot this year himself. Obviously, us being new to the series, learned a lot. Also, Ron Easton, I wouldn't be able to do it without Ron. This guy has been a rock for me, repairing my car, helping me out whenever I needed. This guy is incredible. Spotters that I had, Dave Lacey and AJ Passetti, and all the drivers for all the support this year. It's you guys are what makes the club. So if any of you guys are listening to this podcast later on, I really appreciate it. That's a huge reason, including yourself, Jon, why this club is what it is. The drivers are amazing and the atmosphere is amazing. congrats to TJ for his championship, and for my friend Scott Tonelli on winning Rookie of the Year, well deserved. So I appreciate it very much.
That's awesome. And I because you and Scott were like, first of all, both Joe Media drivers. I didn't care who won Rookie of the Year, but I really hoped it was really close, and I think it ended up being pretty not close per se, but at least decently. Like I think you were one spot away from each other.
Yeah, he was fourth. I finished fifth. Yeah.
You know what? Y'all had a great season. Both of you guys had a great season. It was great to see both of you guys improve all year long. I can't thank the whole club enough for everything that they do. Especially like all the drivers who came out each week especially for allowing me to put my GoPro. Because my GoPros have the damn curse on them.
You put it on mine one time, it didn't do anything, so I was all right. So
I know we shot a whole promo video throughout the entire day.
We did.
Which I got to thank my buddy over at Vision 20 Studios for putting that together. I think he did a hell of a job. And I think next year I'm going to have to send him some more work by the sounds of it. So
yeah, we're hoping to have some race night sponsors for every race next year. So we're currently working on that. I'm hoping to be a part of that. So help grow the club, and yeah, it should be a good venture on that.
Absolutely. Before we kick you off the show for the night, I do want to talk. You just brought up it, and I meant to bring it up earlier. You on our off weekends, you were out there driving the number 43 Ontario Pro Challenge.
Correct.
How the hell did that deal come about for you?
So, and it's coincidence with the number. Well, it's total coincidence with the numbers. So, my daughter was racing in karts at the Waterloo Regional Kart Club, and she had some interest in getting in the cars possibly in the near future. So I thought, well, let's see if we can put a deal together to run some pro challenge part-time, get myself in the seat for a few races, get her some practice time, seat time, and then get her in the car near the end of the year. So her progress is kind of stalled a little bit, and that's okay. It just takes time. So
yep.
It ended up being me in the seat. I think it was 4 races this year. So on our off weekends on the CVMs, I got into those things, and those are a handful too. Those are fun, different, not a CVM, different. Yeah, they're a lot of fun though. They're quick. They're quick.
Oh yeah, the CVMs and the Pro Challenge have been always the two divisions I've always like drawn myself to. If I had the money, it would either be CVMs or Pro Challenge, and those would be one of the cars I would pick. I just think both of them are just absolutely just incredible machines.
Yeah, like I mean, the Pro Challenge is more obviously they run on slicks, right? So
yep.
they're hooked up, and they just hold the track. I guess they'd feel more like a kart, just because a kart's so hooked up because they run slicks too. But really fun to drive. Different, a lot of fun. Met great people. Thank Tim Norris for that opportunity. I was driving his car, so that club is well run. It was a great experience to be part of that group. Great people running those cars, so that was a real good time.
What was the biggest difference, obviously, between the CVM and the Pro Challenge for as a rookie for getting even into both cars this year?
It was the Pro Challenge. You're sitting on the track, low in the car, very sleek, more like very streamlined. Where the CVM's very like gruff, volatile, angry, loud, a little bit more freewheeling, more aggressive. There's a reason why we have metal bumpers on those CVMs, right? So a little bit more touch and go, where the Pro Challenge, not so much touching, right? All fiberglass bodies, and they tend to not want to. There's really no need to really touch anybody. So a little bit more I don't want to say clean, but a little more non-contact racing
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's good. I think unless there's anything else you can think of, I think I've covered up pretty much everything I wanted to talk about tonight.
Well, I like, honestly, I really appreciate you having me out here. I am going to use this time on the air, and I'm just going to just thank. I wouldn't be able to do this without them. All like my sponsors this year, like our company I work for, and my boss Tyrone, Wild One Day Painting, Kitchener Waterloo. A huge reason I can race. They're obviously, you've seen my car, so their logo's all over the car, right?
Yep.
Sure. Paint, Dominion Lending, Jason Howe, and then Executive Properties, Racing Stuff, Ron Easton, AM Plumbing, Epic Racewear, Lovano Salon, and WMKL Accountants. So those are all my sponsors that believed in me and gave me a chance to do something I always dreamed of doing. And it's without them, I wouldn't be able to do it. So I thank them all. I really appreciate it.
Look at that. I didn't even have to cue you up on that. You knew exactly where I was going with that.
Well, I wouldn't be able to do it without them. It's
no, 100%. Usually I'm the one who's just like, is there
Yeah.
anyone you want to thank for getting you here tonight? And then they just ramble on about 5 minutes about their mom, their grandma, their dogs.
Yeah. Like, I
Like,
mean, it's racing isn't cheap. Like, it's
100%.
it's it's not, it's really not just rich people racing. It takes a lot of work and effort and people that support you. And yeah, like for all the companies and people I mentioned, it's they're the ones that make it happen.
Absolutely. Well, of course, Jay, we want to thank you for stopping by tonight, even though it was very last minute for us to get you lined up on our as a guest this week. Um, we had a great conversation with you, and I got to thank you so much for jumping on with us. But once we kind of let go here, just hold on the line for 2 seconds,
Sure.
and I'll give you some more information. But Jay, thank you so much for joining us this week on the True North Racing Podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure, man.
I appreciate having me here, and hopefully we can do it again one day. Thanks.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you soon. Okay.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye. All right, guys. That was Jae Pepin, driver the number 43, Young Drivers Canadian Modified. We want to thank Jay for being our last minute sub in here for this week's show. It was great to talk to him. I knew he had a little bit of a karting background, didn't know how much, but I was happy to be able to dive into that a little bit more and talk to him about that. It was so cool to hear how he actually got involved in the CVMs. I didn't know he actually knew the Murdochs, and they kind of helped him bring him in, which is awesome to see. Man, after we stopped recording the guest spot, he did mention that he forgot to see JoMo Media in his list of sponsors, which is fine. I thank him for being a great ambassador of JoMo Media throughout the 2022 season, and he, like I said, he finished second to Scott Tonelli in the final standings and in for the Rookie of the Year title. So man, great year, great to get to know him. I've known Jay all year, got to talk to him, and his progress throughout the 2022 season was incredible. If you watched him each week, he got better. He was listening to his spotters. Usually I was about within 10-15 feet of his spotters, so I could hear them talk to him. They were definitely, between Dave Lacey and AJ Passetti, they were giving him some great advice throughout the entire nights. But yeah, it's going to be awesome seeing him back in 2023. Wow, 2023 next year, back with the CVMs, and hopefully we can see him progress more and get better, and maybe battle for more top fives and top threes. It would be cool to get him onto our top three, our podium finishers for the future racing next year. Next week is Autumn Colors, you guys. Man, the last race of the season is already upon us. Frostoberfest has set their sun has set on it. I saw that this past week that Sunset is unable to finish their end of year racing, which is unfortunate. But yeah, it's gonna be Next weekend is going to be absolutely insane weekend out at Peterborough Speedway for Autumn Colors. If you are a racer in any of the divisions that are running, make sure you guys get out there. Go support go out there and get supporting Peterborough Speedway for everything they're doing. If you have never been to Peterborough Speedway for Autumn Colors, I highly suggest it. I've never been, but from the stories I've heard, it is one hell of a weekend out there just by just the amount of racing that happens. So get out there, go support. Next weekend we are going to be off because not due to anything, but we will be next weekend because of Thanksgiving. We will not be recording an episode, but we will be we're probably going to take the rest of the month off. We're going to come back in November, and yeah, we'll see what we're going to see what goes on from there. We are probably going to go into our full-time news thing starting the next time we talk to you guys. But we're going to be lining up some new guests here. We're going to be doing a Champions episode here very soon. That'll probably be our first episode back as a Champions episode. So if you are a champion in Ontario or anywhere, let us know. We're going to get you on for 10 minutes. Talk about briefly about your 2022 season, where you won, and all this stuff. And yeah. So if you are a champion in motorsports this year in 2022, reach out to us. We want to get you on our champions episode for this year. You can message us on Facebook and Instagram at JoMo Media. Contact us through our website, jomomedia.ca. And yeah, other than that, guys, I got nothing else for you because it's so sad because the racing season is almost done. We're working already on 2023. It's going to be a long off season, but it's going to be short because as I always say, the racing season is never over. You got the race season and you got preparations, and a lot of us are starting into our preparations already for 2023. Myself, I already am. So yeah, I think that's it, guys. So let's get out of here for the night. Thank you guys for listening to the True North Racing Podcast, brought to you by JoMo Media Promotions. Stay up to date on everything going on with JoMo Media by following us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to us on Apple, Anchor, Apple, Google, Spotify, and now YouTube to keep up to date on all the latest content for JoMo Media. I'm John Morrison. Thank you guys for listening to the True North Racing Podcast. We'll see you guys soon. Bye now.
Gotta get it hype, Saturday night under the lights. Hear the engine rooming by, smell the gas and feel the vibe, going into overdrive. Drop the flag, then the car zooming by. Hey, True North Racing, let's go.